Yeah.
We are live.
I'd like to call to order the February 12th meeting of the Isle of Palms Planning Commission and acknowledge that the press and public world were duly notified in accordance with state law. The first item on the agenda is the approval of our minutes from our last meeting, January 8th. Do we have any motions?
Move to approve as submitted.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments? Then we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed? On to no new business, so we're on to old business and comprehensive plan. Douglas, you want to bring us up to speed?
Yes, this may be good to just talk about kind of all of these in one fell swoop initially, and kind of talk about next steps on all these. Council, and I think by association, you all, and it was already alluded to last night, that council is going to want to lean on the planning commission for at least two, if not all, of these kind of major pieces of work for the city. And so kind of, and I've actually put these on the agenda in the exact opposite order that they're hitting the council. So last night, the Community Enrichment Task Force handed off, and they didn't officially hand it off as we were talking about. They met with the council and described their work product that is, it's really an online, there will be a written report, but the bulk of it's online. It's intended to be viewed online for just kind of easy distribution, to not be like a paper report that you have to print. So very, very much in favor of it being digital format. And it is, I would say, when you read through it and you read read what's the product of that group, it pretty closely aligns with our comprehensive plan. There are 4 key areas, and those 4 key areas are also hit in on our comprehensive plan. And I don't know, for the benefit of the group, if we talked much about what's happened there, but to create this plan, the Charleston Visitors Bureau funded an outside agency, the McNair Group, and they worked on collecting data initially, taking all of that data from that process, working with a task force. I think it was 11 residents assigned to that committee, and they broke into 4 different groups, areas of study, and just broke out the data that they had and developed a list of recommendations to address the group, the issues of their group. So this product results from, kind of my standpoint, with a deliverable of close to 200 recommendations for city council to consider. The council alluded to, and I believe is heading in a direction of taking those 200 and divvying them into the various committees that are germane to the group. An example of that, there is an environmental. So of the 4 components, one is environmental, one is public safety, one is livability.
Quality of life, and
traffic.
then seasonal impacts of parking and traffic.
Yeah, traffic and seasonal impacts. So I think the majority of the environmental recommendations, I believe, would go to the Environmental Advisory Committee. I believe the majority of the public safety recommendations would go to the Public Safety Committee. And I am kind of thinking that the other 2 would come to this group for kind of study, analysis, and recommendation on changes that should be made or could be made within the city's policies. So again, that's probably a week, 2 weeks from being a live product. When it is live, I'll forward it out to everybody so you can take a look. But I think that 100 or so of those recommendations is going to come to this group for analysis and recommendation. So that's that one. The next one, which is also planned to be kind of officially delivered to city council at their March workshop. So we're February now, we get the community enrichment plan. In the March meeting, the sea level rise adaptation plan will be officially presented, and I would assume kind of adopted by city council. That also has a number of recommendations, and I would say it's not nearly as kind of, they're more kind of, out years, and more of a guiding kind of principles and more so than really pointed numerous recommendations. But that one also, I think, clearly has technical aspects of it that the council will look to planning commission to give advice and evaluation and recommendations on that. That happens in March. That brings us to April. And in April, the current plan is for city council and the planning commission to hold the joint meeting we've been talking about on the comprehensive plan. That also has a ton of recommendations, strategies, goals in it. And I wanted to just kind of talk through with this group the idea of, I think there's a lot of overlap in these plans. And I don't quite know how to do this, but I'm looking to you all for advice in terms of divvying up, kind of taking all of these goals, all of these recommendations, creating a master kind of sheet, tying those together that we can tie together and consolidate and condense this list of deliverables into some kind of manageable outline of goals and strategies and next steps. So that is what I would like to do. I don't know if that's fully
I agree with you.
feasible.
I think it would be great to incorporate both those two documents as, even as an appendices in the comprehensive plan.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking a matrix with tasks and recommendations and kind of next steps. Some of them have money assigned to them. Some of them are kind of just, they're a recommendation, but it's kind of like, consider this when making, they're not really actionable, what I would
Right.
call. Some, though, are very specific. The example that there was discussion about last night is some of these have budget implications. And the Community Enrichment Task Force specifically kind of addressed questions of, if it had a budget implication, we did not go out and, find out costs, kind of work through the fine details of how that might happen. So they clearly were planning on that work happening after the facts, once there was input, review, kind of guidance from somebody else. So that is, it's kind of a lot to get your arms around from my perspective. But I guess I could already see that the council, with this amount of stuff coming at them all at the same time and with as much as they already have on their plate, I think it would be very useful to them to kind of take this sea of information and distill it down to what we can to consolidate and address as many points as we can in one set of recommendations that's hitting at all of these different plans. And
I think there's a lot of, I won't call it redundancy, but in our comprehensive plan, our action items or our goals and our follow-throughs on those, I think dovetail into a lot of what you're talking about.
They do.
And
There's
it's
a-
function of just sort of maybe footnoting that, addressed in
Yep.
comprehensive plan, not comprehensive plan, in the resiliency plan and the committee's work that they did, the task force program, some of their 200 items. I mean, I know there's some, like
You could take it
phase
a step
4
further
and
and do
5
ad
of
hoc
the
too.
drainage plan. I mean,
The,
that's,
the beach,
Ad hoc,
yes.
yes.
yeah.
That's also kind
Uh-huh.
of bubbling up with,
See, I would think the comprehensive plan, because that's one required by law, is basically, I would think of it more as the overarching, all these would feed into it.
I think that's correct.
So whether we do it partially in this review, but some, reviewing those other things, and either stuff would bubble up into the comprehensive plan, or it just goes away. Not that it, it's still background information, but the strategy for the city would be the comprehensive plan. All these other ones are more or less recommendations to evaluate to see should they be in the comprehensive plan.
I think that's a good way of looking at it is if the recommendation
Is already-
supports the comprehensive plan and is in line with the comprehensive plan, then maybe we add that recommendation in the comprehensive plan. I do think, just being, there was a different, and I don't know how to say that there's a different tenor in the comprehensive plan. I mean, I think it's very kind of specific and do this to address that. I think of the community enhancement recommendations. A lot of them are more kind of aspirational and very kind of just directional. Like, consider this, look at that. Where I think the comprehensive plan is more kind of direct and.
Right, and
but-
I'm thinking for us to go through these other plans, like I said, as we go through them, we determine, is this already covered in the comprehensive plan, so we can weed out all that stuff that's already been really
Say,
addressed.
see goal 6.4
Yeah.
on this one, see goal.
Right, and then
Think
whatever's
of
left.
Kind of dovetail.
Footnoted to the other
Yeah,
document.
Yeah.
and then whatever's left over is stuff we look at to say, should this have been in the next version of the
Yeah.
comprehensive plan?
Right.
No, I think
Start
you're,
the review early.
I mean, if we're cross-referencing.
Well, I kind of, my things on this is you never finish with comprehensive plan. You just
Yeah.
go from one review cycle into the next.
yeah, you're just constantly kind of
Yeah.
reviewing, and that is a little bit of the nature of, I mean, the issues kind of turn on their head given an 18-month cycle, and it's a totally new world that you're looking at, so I think there's some truth to that. I very much, I think it's kind of the same way I'm looking at it. We have 7 elements. Those 7 elements pretty well cover the 4 areas of the community enrichment plan. The sea level rise adaptation plan is actually one of the recommendations of the resiliency elements, so the 5th element. So it is kind of like all of the plans really work into being under the umbrella of the comprehensive plan. So it would make sense and to your point, you could reference them by appendices, you could kind of incorporate them in by reference. Because they do kind of, each one is a little bit individual and a little bit unique to more details. So, but for the layperson reading the comprehensive plan, it would be very nice if they want to go into a deeper dive on beach erosion. There could be a link to the ad hoc committee's recommendations. Kind of get it
It's in
right.
the references too, like, we have a whole
Yep.
page of references
Yep.
that keep it.
That's harder to
Site.
find. I'm, being the lazy reader of
Not
news
sure.
and stuff, if.
There's a
if
link
there's a
right
hot
here.
link that
Yeah.
you can then go to for additional information, I'll go there as opposed to searching at the end of the story for all the references and trying to figure out which one might be applicable. But I also like to know, when there's an ordinance or a ruling, kind of where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And that will allow you to go back and see the other documents and read them and get an idea of how this came to be.
Yeah.
You know, I always find that kind of helpful.
Well, we're just transitioning from paper to
Yeah.
online
Not-
and
not
hot
quite.
links.
Almost.
Especially as they
It's
get to
getting
be
there.
too big to even email. I mean, they're literally getting to be so
Right.
kind of dense and thick and photographs and you almost now, I mean, in the old days, I would have fully printed my packet. Now getting to a point, you really just can't even print it. I mean, I can't even email it. It's
Yeah.
so big.
Yeah.
You printed them, didn't you, Susan?
I got to the point that,
She gets trees.
well, no, I've looked at this comp plan so many times
Yeah.
that if I could do it on paper and write in the margins for the last time, that was
Yeah.
so much easier for me. But I'm glad I printed this because what I got from you didn't have, a month ago when you said, here's what's coming down the pike, didn't have the great graphics in the back. So as I'm printing it out, I'm like,
That's another example where we had to condense. The things are getting so big
Yeah.
right,
that they're not transportable via email. And you'll look and you'll see it's a little grainier. It's because they had to reduce the resolution down to being.
I was like, darn, I wish I had seen those a month ago, so I.
Oh, you're gonna have plenty of time.
Oh.
You're gonna have plenty of time.
Maybe we should just have a community Dropbox for planning and just stick it in there.
Oh, yeah, we certainly could. We're actually putting them, they will all be on the city's website, for everybody to see as they have an official, I think the sea level rise plan now is on the website. There's a page there, I'm not sure if the plan is on that page yet or not. This community enrichment recommendations, those will be up within a few days. So yeah, it will all be readily accessible just on the city's website.
But even just like going through the comprehensive plan of Matt and I going back and forth, I mean, just having like a working document folder,
Yeah,
so he could just pick it up
yeah,
and look at it versus me trying to, send that
yeah. So.
until it's ready.
Specifically, kind of next steps, we would like to get, and what I sent out to you was the red line version of the comprehensive plan, just so you could kind of recall the amount of red ink we put all over that. I would like to accept those changes, because it's now getting so hard to read.
It is getting hard to read.
Accept all the changes and just format it, clean it up, just from a readability standpoint. I think so much changed. We focused on what we changed this version. We'll certainly keep that red line for our records so we can say, well, this is an ad, this is not an ad. But I think you really do, we have to present it in its complete form, regardless of whether it's new or old. And majority of it, I think now is pretty much new.
Matt, you've been working on it.
Sorry.
Somebody was reordering it.
Yeah.
The
it's been a-
sections.
Yeah.
It's been a
It was while ago.
constant.
Yeah.
See?
So we're gonna.
It looks good, though.
We're gonna accept all changes, clean it up, get it ready for meeting with city council in April. So we still have a couple months to do that. We're going to, as these recommendations get finalized out of the Community Enrichment Task Force, we will work on this kind of breaking down the recommendations, the 200 recommendations, for kind of putting them in silos that we think are relevant to one another. So kind of identifying the duplication in the comp plan and in their work. And then I think present that to you all, kind of this cross, like, here's the recommendation, here are the community enhancement recommendations that we think feed to or are relative to this recommendation, and just kind of proceed putting these things together for an ultimate look at by city council.
So some of what's in the community enrichment recommendations will be parsed out to the different appropriate committees and planning.
Yes,
But some of the other committees that will get some of this, let's say environmental,
Yep.
for example, it's in the comp plan. So we wanna
look at that as well.
also look at that,
Yeah.
I would think.
Yep.
Of the overall recommendations.
Yep,
You could just give us the whole thing.
yes, oh yeah, I mean, you'll have all of, you'll have, and I think it would be useful for us to have kind of a sounding board with even the parsing out of, we think these recommendations could be best handled by this committee.
Okay.
I mean, I think from the very outset, it would be helpful to have your input on all of them. Because there is a lot to, I mean, you might be picking up on the fact that there's a lot to sort through with all of these things.
Under community facilities, we have a section that starts off with public safety as well.
Yep. Traffic, transportation,
Education.
natural benefits. I mean, yeah, we have, it's definitely all covered in our comprehensive plan. Well, in a different way, but they are,
Well, we've put sort of action items to a lot of those things, where some of, I think, what the community enhancement plan has, some of that, their recommendations might even be categorized as aspirational
That's
for the
correct.
future, not a specific, by this date, have this happening.
that's correct. Yeah, I think a lot of the, 200 recommendations sounds overwhelming. I think probably half of them are kind of ongoing, in progress, aspirational, and probably about half of them are pretty specific, actionable, short. We can also categorize them, short, medium, long. We've kind of talked about different ways to, obviously money is a big one. I mean, we could kind of create a prioritization chart that has, if there's money associated, there's a column here. If it's short, medium, long term, there's a column here. So you could sort it by, okay, these are short term with money associated with them. I haven't fully worked out how to do that, but I think that's at our, that would be the desire would be, we could kind of sort this massive list to get it worked down to, a reasonable way of prioritizing them. If we're gonna prioritize them by cost, we have a column to do that. If we're gonna do it by short, medium, long term, we can do that. If we're gonna do them by environmental issue, by issue, we'd have a column for that. So,
So creating a big spreadsheet that goes where it came from, what's the topic?
Yep.
What's the timeline, what's the priority?
That's right.
estimated, And then if there's a cost associated.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
then you put them all down there and you see what is duplicated between the different sections.
Yep.
And then where they are, the comprehensive plan kind of leads. You
Yep.
say, okay, already in comprehensive plans, this is a duplicate.
Yep.
Just that way you can sort through them that way.
That would be the,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a big spreadsheet.
So-
A lot of-
So we do have the goals
Very familiar.
in the comp plan as an aspiration, like a pre-goal? A precursor to a goal?
So we have
Or-
key, so comprehensive plan has
Oh,
issues, goals, and
Right,
strategies.
and strategies.
So we kind of have already a 3-tier.
Right. Is it inappropriate to add aspirations to a comp plan?
That's all at the next revision.
I don't know if it's an appropriate thing or not. I don't know how structured comp plans have to be.
I mean, I think aspirations are kind of in the
Goals.
goal.
Well,
Yeah,
they're
to-
goals that haven't been strategized, probably. That's why they're
Well, yeah, like sewer,
aspiration.
by 2050, the whole island's supposed to be on sewer, is one of the things I picked up
Yeah.
from just reading through it.
Sure.
in a-
Yeah.
in a quick one. And I look back and it actually says by 2030, and, I know we've done some things with the council has done some things in terms of starting to really kind of kick that into gear, the water company coordinating, I mean, there's
Mhm.
things are going, but it's not
Right.
not a done deal by 2030, and certainly don't know by 2050. And then you look at the flood plan, sea level rise, and you gotta have properties that by under 7 feet in elevation need to be on sewer by,
Yeah.
Yep.
you know, that time. I mean, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
It is, you know, kind of from a high level looking at it, and we're getting very into the weeds of 200, if you take the comp plan recommendations, the beach plan recommendations, the sea level rise recommendations, you probably have, I don't know, 300, 350 recommendations. I will say that I don't think any one of them is gonna be new to anybody in this room. You know, it's the same, it is kind of the same issues that we've been wrestling with and pulling with for 20 years. But it does seem as though, you know, these strategies and these kind of goals are aligning to a point, potentially, I think, leading to, you know, here's the path forward on this issue. We gotta start kind of working on it, but they're all, I mean, they're all overlapping. I mean, they are all environmental, traffic, visitors. They're,
Well, the comp plan is a good basis,
Yep.
overriding for, I think that we have vetted a lot of what we're going to see.
Yes.
in some of these other.
none of them are gonna be a shock to you, I don't think.
When I think of, the other part of that is a lot of this stuff has been addressed in the past. You just don't know where that link is to whatever actions, like, you know, because again, a lot of our drainage stuff has already been addressed in the past, projects that have been
Yeah.
done.
Yeah,
So that link is kind of missing too, and a lot of this stuff of what actions have already been taken to address these. There's still a problem because we haven't gotten the results in place, but the actions have already been moved
Yeah.
forward with.
Yeah, is it the sea level rise that mentions kicking off phase 5 of the drainage?
yeah,
I mean, we've gone through and kind of addressed, you
Yeah.
know, phase 4 is sort of in the works. But
yeah,
it's pushing for phase 5.
yeah, I mean, and there is, you know, and it's, maybe it's a sign of kind of moving the needle, but in that sea level rise plan, it talks about a barrier on, you know, the backside of the island. That's now actually about to be it will almost be under construction, a portion of it, before the plan even gets presented. I mean, it actually will be. So we are constantly kind of pushing
Yeah.
bits and pieces here and there ahead as we can.
And how many of those recommendations are going to be addressed by that project?
Yes, that's right. That's kind of like,
Yeah.
if you look at the maps that Susanna's talking about, that berm, once in place, changes that map almost instantly. So, you know, it's interesting to get these kind of snapshots in time, and hopefully we'll look back.
Bicycles and pedestrian safety.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. It'll get to the transportation element that's kind of weaved throughout the plans too.
Do we prioritize what we have money for?
So I think that's gonna be a column. I mean, I think in our kind of spreadsheet of prioritization, we're gonna have to identify if, a lot of them don't have any money. I mean, it's a policy, but a lot of them do. And a lot of them, I think, have a little bit of money, and a lot of them have a lot of money. So I think that definitely is gonna be a column in our sheet that we can sort by and identify that. Put that, if it's a big ticket item, I think that obviously is gonna be something that we have to work into a budget. We're in the budget cycle right now for the upcoming year, so there is at least one recommendation that came out of the beach ad hoc group, and we know is in the community enrichment task force to hire a resilience / beach manager person. That's in the current original draft of the budget for next year, so council's gonna, they're gonna have to think that through, and that's another example. That could already be in the budget, but before the sea level rise plan comes out with a recommendation to do it. Actually, that's not in the, that's not in the sea level rise. Start getting all the plans confused, but that's in
It's
the
in the
beach.
beach ad hoc.
Yeah, the other, so.
And then do we plan for a legislative change? We're trying to push, ordinances so the city can raise their own money and, allow the state to allow us to do more things to generate income. Is that gonna be part of that? Or
That
that
is
just-
definitely, I don't know that it's definitely in the beach plan.
Mhm.
I don't know that that's in any other plan. And obviously, changing state legislation is, very long,
Aspirational.
you could put that in the aspirational category. But I think a lot of them have city policy that, that's a vote of council and they can do that in a matter of 60 days. So I think that will get to the column on short, medium, long-term goals. So starting points, I think from my standpoint, would be to start working on this spreadsheet, start populating it with the appropriate columns and the appropriate tasks. And we will, I think that we would probably take a stab at the appropriate assignment, what committee it goes to. And then I think we would come back to this group for just review of that starting place at your next one. Just gonna be, and we'll give you as much time to kind of work with that. But that's what I was envisioning as a next step, and wanted to see if you all felt like that was a good next step or something different.
So, just so I understand, so you guys are gonna kind of come up with the spreadsheet?
Yep. All
Okay.
these, we're gonna take all
Okay,
300 priorities, put them in a spreadsheet, try to create the right columns.
right,
And I'm envisioning, what plan is it in? Is it the comp plan? Is it the, what the assigned group could be?
right,
Whether there's money associated with it? Is it a long, medium, short-term kind of type issue?
Got it.
And then start identifying, hopefully that will start to identify some of the overlap.
okay,
And then we may be able to kind of link, so maybe we go from 300 to 100 linked recommendations.
and
But-
so you're gonna throw it back to us for,
Feedback.
okay. I wasn't sure if you wanted us to
Feedback.
start the matrix or not, so that's why I was like, I'm not, but,
I'm planning on Matt starting the matrix. He doesn't know that, he just learned that right here. We can see, we can judge his reaction.
You're gonna have your headaches already.
Yeah.
uh-huh,
And I guess all of this to say, we're kind of getting, I'm gonna, in addition to the matrix, I will send you the plans as they get kind of presented to council, and they probably will actually be adopted by council as a, so first will be last night's Community Enrichment Task Force. That's the one that's a little bit challenging to see because it's on a slightly hidden, I think it's on a web page, but I don't know that the public has access to that yet, do they?
No,
But
still
it's-
no.
But it's
Council.
kind of days away from being able.
Because the whole site's gonna go live. Cha said the whole site would go live by the end of the month.
Okay.
That was the last she heard, and at that time, everybody will have access to
Yeah.
it, everything.
So as these things become available, but in the meantime, Matt's gonna have the back door to be able to get to all recommendations and things to start kind of building out this matrix.
Thank you, Matt.
Sure
I
thing.
never saw his lips move around.
Yeah.
Or quiver.
Yeah.
Can't go down that.
Yeah.
Just, if you need help, just let me know.
I'll reach out, yeah.
Please, yeah.
Sounds good.
Everybody feel, everybody feel okay about
I
the
like
amount
this.
of?
So
I
you
like
started
this.
talking about all of this, and then you deviated and you said, do we want to finalize basically what we've done on the comp plan?
Accept the changes.
And other than
Yeah.
some changes, did we make a motion and vote to approve it, or,
You all have done that.
okay?
Yeah, you've already done that. I just wanted, and it's been so long since we've kind of looked at it and familiarized ourselves with it. I just wanted the group, prior to the April workshop, and expecting this joint meeting from happening, I just wanted the group to kind of dust it off, get familiarized with it. I do think that, this question of how do all these plans dovetail into each other, because council's gonna be getting them literally one right after the other. And I think that's gonna be a valid and real question is, we now have, they've always had this comprehensive plan. I mean, it's currently in place. This is a review and an update. But I think it's very valid, and kind of to David's initial point is, are these completely separate plans? Are they dovetailed into one another? Are they connected via links? So I think that's a good question. I think between now and April, we should kind of think through really how if we want to dig back into it, edit it, add some links. I think we have the time to do that if we wanted
To the comp plan.
to the comp plan.
I think
Okay.
we should.
And we could, that's might be, again, they haven't even received the
Right.
community enrichment plan. They haven't technically received the sea level rise adaptation plan. So they're kind of hitting each other all in quick succession. So we might in April just say, here is the current draft. We know that you've been hit with 2 other plans. We would like to kind of go back, digest that, and work through how they get referenced in this plan, probably is a reasonable way to.
Well, to Ron's point, for those that want to dig deeper, a link in there, it would be easy to stick a link.
Especially if it was a link not in the body of the plan. I mean, you could have a link in the appendices of here's this, or we could kind of find the germane portion of the plan and incorporate it into a new sentence, because it's,
Well,
it would need context in the plan of here is an additional work product linked here, to just work the verbiage into the existing plan.
or, when you reference the appendix, you wouldn't even have to, you could just put a hyperlink in there if you're looking at referencing an appendix,
Yeah.
to go right to the appendix, and it's there.
Should we
If-
take
if-
a?
If it goes in line with the goals, if it's in one of the
Yeah.
goals, you could talk about it and then reference the whole document.
You want us to go ahead and take a stab at inserting links into the body of the plan?
I would think that would be probably our kind of task for the next year.
Well, I'm just
After this?
thinking that you're not gonna be walking around with a printed document anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, people are gonna be able to review it, so it shouldn't be too hard to stick a link in there. Once you've identified which portions of our goals correlate to, the ad hoc, the sea level rise, the community enrichment, you could easily put them in there online.
It was in step 1, the spreadsheet, that way you know.
Mhm.
Because you don't want to do 300 different actions referenced.
No, no,
Right.
but for the
Right.
comp plan that, as David said, is kind of the umbrella of the
Yeah.
governing body. If one of our, issues, goals, or objectives is similar to the sea level rise plan, you could reference that right there. It shouldn't, now that your document is digital, it should be pretty easy to do that.
Yeah, it would be. I think the challenge, and I guess hearing David's point, is they will be getting these other kind of 3 reports
Mhm.
a matter of days before we're presenting them with a comprehensive plan. It might be ambitious to think that our comprehensive plan would already include and have linked to
I see what you're saying.
what just got
Yeah.
presented to them
Right.
10
Yeah,
days
no,
prior, and
that
so
one.
what's
No, no.
already in
No,
here.
it's
I
simply
understand that.
Finalize, and this is the comp plan.
Right,
And oh, by the way, the other documents you have received, we're working on, and here's a rough draft of a
yes.
spreadsheet, and.
We're gonna start looking at all these other plans and see
Threading
if
them
they're
in.
addressed
How
in
to
the comp plan.
dovetail them.
If not, we'll start
I
the
like that. Mm-hmm.
revision for the
Yeah.
comp plan for the next iteration, but again, that comp plan is kind of a work in progress, so let's
Yeah.
just lock it down where we have it, because we spent so much time on it. And again, a lot of this
And
stuff,
acknowledge it's,
a lot of
it's
this
so
has been
fluid.
addressed.
Yeah.
But now that we have these other plans, we're gonna, that becomes our goal for the next year or two.
Next month.
2 years, come on, David.
No, but you know,
Maybe.
it is good though to feed these to council, individually,
Yeah,
because I think if you did it the other way with the comp plan then all
Yeah.
of these,
yeah,
it would just be so
so much.
overwhelming.
Yeah, each one in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Sea level rise plan, we knew that would be a high level plan, not a ton of kind of, granular recommendations in that. So that one's digestible. The rest though are there's a lot in them, so
This
it's a lot for a
version
council.
is much better than the one that we
Yeah.
reviewed.
Good, yeah, yeah,
Much better.
I think so too. All right, everybody, everybody feel good about that? Everybody's
Mhm.
head spinning a little bit with
Yeah.
all the plans,
Lot.
recommendations?
Future plans.
Future plans?
I think it's a good way to keep everything dynamic
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
tie it all together, because if you've ever tried to find a document on the
And
website.
that's, I was gonna go to something next, the red line markups.
Yeah,
Hopefully those are archived and retrievable.
they are.
I've had a recent experience in another jurisdiction nearby who just rewrote their zoning ordinance.
Can't
And-
find their old one?
Well, no, you can find the old one because it's still what's online.
Oh,
But I was cagey enough to look through previous minutes of previous city council, town council meetings to find the draft of the new ordinance, because I was in the middle of designing homes, in the middle of this transition period, and they rewrote the whole stinking chapter. And not even in the same sequence of order of chapters and verses, and it's like,
oh, no.
how am I keeping up? Where are the red marks? It's like, yeah, we're past that. This was the draft presented. It's like, how are we all supposed to know? And they don't.
We occasionally, we use this service muni code. And I feel like the drainage, if you will
Yeah.
recall the kind of recent changes of the drainage, I call it the black box capacity kind
Mhm.
of. That gets enacted, but then it doesn't show up on muni code for maybe 6-8 months. It's
Yeah.
not an instant thing, because they kind of do them
Sure.
maybe quarterly or.
Right.
So there is definitely, and then somebody unbeknownst to us is out there working
Right.
away on a plan and they submit it, so we're definitely guilty
Yeah.
of that,
Well,
that lag.
That stuff happens, but when you're trying to understand,
Yep,
all of a sudden what was here in this chapter, well, it's like there was a whole an overlay district that all of a sudden just disappeared. And that's one of my projects I was really concerned about, because it's the overlay district that requires the civil engineer to do drainage plans and calculations. And I said, have you done away with it? Oh, no, it's still in there. No, it's not.
so was it not, had they deleted it?
And No, they rewrote it as R2.
Oh, it's
So
not
the
an
whole-
overlay, it's an actual zone.
It's now a whole zoning thing, which was not a renamed zoning, so it was just kind of confusing to
Yeah.
keep up with. When you're fretting, at the 11th hour, trying to get plans in before the adoption of the new ordinance in one
Yep,
case.
yep.
In the other case, we weren't worrying about it, but then there were just some nuances of changes to things like porches and setbacks and,
We definitely suffer with
Yeah.
that. I mean,
And they-
people
they
get-
are
People
too.
get in their way of, they kind of lock down your ordinances mentally, they know them that,
Right.
and we start getting submittals of, here's my plan, it's like, things have changed a little bit, and we have to, they have to go back to the drawing board occasionally, but.
When you asked that, it just reminded me, did you ever get the wording fixed in that ordinance, the black box ordinance? Or did you?
I believe so, David, but I don't have a clue what you're talking about,
Oh,
so maybe not.
This was, before we missed all the
Presentation
meetings.
with the recommendation, and I can't remember what their name was.
We had a guest here who, from the town of Mount Pleasant.
Yeah,
He
Yeah.
did a lot of their drainage stuff.
yeah.
So we were discussing one of our ordinance changes, right?
There,
And you came up with the black box, but there was some wording that we all struggled with.
Do you recall?
Was it about like the pre-construction runoff has to mimic?
I
There
have
was
to go
one
back
that
and
was,
look
there was
at it.
one that was
That we did
mimic,
correct.
there was one mimic, one was not,
Exceed.
oh, I think the example, yeah, it was kind of like mimic, but what if it was bad and they wanted to improve it, so.
Yeah,
It-
that did
then-
get fixed.
No, it was like there was a copy and paste or something of a sentence that got inserted in the middle of a paragraph.
Oh, it,
Oh, yeah.
like
That just,
complete nonsense in the middle of
Yes.
it. Oh.
yeah.
and,
Hopefully that's not in
well, and
Nonsense.
I didn't, I caught it when I was looking at what the actual city council voted on. It was,
there.
It was still in there?
it was still in there, and then
Oh,
I
boy.
went back and it was in the version that came before us, except it was something we had talked about before. Oh, okay, I'll have to go
Yeah,
back and
okay.
look it up.
Is it, do you know if
It's
that,
on
that's a good example of one, that still is not on Muni code.
Yeah, it's still not up there.
Yeah.
So that's,
So we-
if you were designing,
Last, yeah,
Yeah, it was
Black
late
Box
March,
March,
right?
March of last year.
Yeah, it was like we reworded something, but I guess whenever it got cut and pasted, both versions ended up in like string on the sentence that made no sense if you,
we'll check that.
Would it be in the memo?
It would be in the actual sign.
I'll look it up in
Okay.
a minute or something. It was,
There's a whole thing about the 625 square feet,
Mhm.
new construction versus.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds
Full-scale
like,
construction or.
there was a lot of,
Small-scale.
there was a lot of deliberation about the policy, but I think what David's talking about is just straight typographical.
it was, yeah, it's just a straight,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember you saying.
so hopefully we got that worked out.
all right.
We'll check.
I'll look back up and see.
They repeated the same thing like.
And it was like, yeah,
I do vaguely remember that.
this was like right before we canceled all the meetings, so I was like, oh, I'll check with you the next meeting, and that didn't happen for 3 months.
All right, check on.
So where would the public go to find the information on the black box with it not being yet published on Muni code?
They call Matt.
They
They
call
pulled
that.
an email from me.
Yeah.
It's at the bottom of my email right now.
Well, if you go,
It's like, what else
On
is
your,
true?
For like new construction, I
Yeah.
have it on there. the template
almost a,
that I said.
yeah.
Yeah.
well, it's on the web, the ILP.net, new ordinances.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nobody's, I mean,
But
they're
those
all,
haven't- Yeah, everything, well, some of those on the pages are in Unicode, but most of the recent ones.
yeah.
Right.
Like you said, just haven't.
The
been-
average
Sure.
Joe isn't looking on that page. They're going to Muni code and,
Right,
and,
right.
and are they, is it still being
Average Joe's
readily
doing
missed?
neither.
Right.
We
Right.
have about 5 designers.
They're waiting until somebody points it out that they haven't done something.
Oh, I can't do that.
Hasn't really been a problem.
All right, we're gonna work on a matrix. We're gonna send out these plans as they come to us. And you will kind of, in your spare time, refamiliarize yourself with the comp plan, get ready for a sit-down in April with council.
So what?
And the
You guys are
acceptable
gonna,
changes?
yeah, I was gonna say, so
We'll
what
do,
you guys are gonna do is accept
Yeah,
the
we'll
changes.
let us, we'll make a clean version.
Okay.
Yeah, let us just kind of be the clearinghouse for the versions.
So you'll resend out?
A clean version,
revised,
yep.
clean-
Do you want me to print it for you?
No thanks.
Eat up per toner.
You only
Yeah.
get one print job.
All right.
I was
I
smart.
will
do
print it out
like-
myself, but when it's revised.
Well,
Anything
it's
else?
hard to read through it.
Some really-
Anybody got anything for the group?
Oh, my. No.
Nothing miscellaneous?
That's enough?
Nothing
That's
on
enough for one
TV,
meeting?
huh?
So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Erosion, Parking, traffic, no, I think I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like that? No, I think I'm fine.
Quality of life. We're gonna nail down quality of life next
There
month.
we go.
Pretty good, council officer.
Is
Yeah.
that quality of life
Well,
officer still working?
what else
Yeah,
is there to
yeah.
have?
Wait,
He's-
was there a
he's
motion to
awesome.
adjourn?
No.
No, there
Not
hasn't
yet.
been yet a
Motion
motion.
to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
Any not in favor?
I'm not in favor. I want to keep going over.
You're outvoted.
Off record, 4:50.